Hello guys, welcome back to Blitz Wizard 94. And you might be wondering why I'm wearing a Santa hat at 7 a.m. in the morning, and I can tell you exactly why. So, for many of you have realized by now or haven't realized, I did recently pass 2800 Blitz, and I made like this huge video showing the final moments of where I actually managed to defeat the legendary one and only Grandmaster Simon Williams as the final boss to cross 2800. And this is the game itself. I'm not really gonna do much except skim through it. Just to show the game, I was black. At one point, I actually did blunder. We kept playing back and forth. I learned back into the game. He gradually was outplaying me. And here, after Queen takes B7, he made the biggest blunder ever, as he doesn't actually win back the piece. I do Bishop takes, Queen takes, and what he misevaluated is that I have the move Rook to E6. He thought that he would be able to simply come in and just take it, but he missed that I have check, king moves, and I take the queen, and it is game over. Uh-oh, spaghettios. So instead, he took the pawn, I go knight f6, and the rest of the game was simple cleanup duty as I gradually recoordinated my pieces. I went in, I traded another pair of pieces, and then finally, I actually have this moment recorded on YouTube. It actually is a short made by me and also a video made by me, so you guys can check it out. I'll put links in the description down below. We had check, f5 check, bishop d8, and now the final crushing move, bishop to f6 check. And here, Ginger GM, also known as Simon Williams, the iconic British Grandmaster who loves drinking beer, resigned. Because once you play king d5, it's just going to be mate after rook e6 check. I'm sorry, rook d3 check. He has to block, and I just take, and the king is simply smothered by his own pieces. But this video is not going to be about Simon Williams or that game. I apologize for the plane that might be in the background, even if you guys don't hear on YouTube. Basically, it was 9:30 a.m. in the morning, like 9:33, I think, and there was only like 2 hours left. I would want to say, before this tournament actually started. And for some context, again, I was really unsure if I was going to play this tournament, as originally I was going to spend time with a friend at my house and was planning a sleepover, but things got canceled, and because of that, I was like, you know what, screw it. I got nothing else to lose. I passed 2800. I remember I was in a chat last night. One of my friends told me I should be going to play the event. I told him, if I get 2800, I'll go. And I said, if I get 2800 in an hour. I did not get in an hour. I ended up playing the whole night, 9 hours straight, until I finally got to 2800, as you guys saw, at 9 a.m. in the morning. So I figured, you know what, screw it. I got 2800. I may not have done it in an hour, but I still got there. So you know what? Let's go screw around and see what happens in this tournament. So when we go to the tournament, I ended up paying $30 and I was paired up against this really interesting 1900 named Alex Revuelta. This was a tournament called the Christmas Rock Open. It was organized by the Rock Chess Club and partnered with the South Miami Chess Club. Both arbiters are really amazing. One arbiter is infamously known, Diego Milla, as the founder of the South Miami Chess Club, and he always has cultivated this amazing culture with his own academy here in Miami. So it feels really nice to have him organize this tournament along with Raul, who is a really amazing chess player and chess coach who has amazing experience with a lot of the people he has coached throughout the years, especially back in Cuba. And his son is also playing. His son is very talented. His name is Ubaldo. So just want to point that out before we start. But anyways, after we get to the table, again, I was paired against this one opponent, Revuelta. I haven't really played him much other than one time, but that was like over a year ago. And he has, I think, gained since then. So it was really interesting to face him. I was playing with the black pieces, so let me actually just flip this board really quickly. If I can flip it, I don't know if I can. Can I flip it? How do I flip this board? I do not know how to flip this board. Do I or do I not? Okay, screw it. We don't know how to flip it, so it is what it is. Okay, we can't flip it. Well, I don't know how to flip it. So, oh no, I do know how to flip it. Sorry guys. There we go. So again, Alex Revuelta, I'm with the black pieces, and I play my trusty Karl defense. Let me just hide all these annotations. Sorry for spoiling the game right there. So we get e4, c6, the Karl d4, d5. And I was surprised here. I thought he was going to play the advance, but he decided to go for the exchange. We swap pawns, bishop d3, and the game naturally develops into a very simple opening phase. After bishop g4, h3, I swapped off my bishop for his knight, winning queen b6. After b4, the game is oddly level, and I really go on a wrong turn again with no sleep and no energy. I thought honestly that what I was doing was the right thing. I played the move e6, which is completely inaccurate. He goes knight d2, and here I go off the rails with the move a5, allowing him this huge clump in the center, controlling a lot of space, and potentially my queen might get a little bit trapped. I played knight a7, we get a4, fixing my pawns and making this a permanent weakness until I perhaps protect it with a move like b6. At one point, white's pawn push with c4 will be extremely impactful, so I have to be ready for it. I go knight c8, trying to reroute my knight to d6 to control the c4 square. We get knight b3, trying to reroute to c5. I go knight d7, trying to control c5, and now queen g3, which is again inaccurate according to the computer. I play queen a7, we get rook c1, knight b6, and after rook c1 I kind of felt like I was back into the game already, simply because he allowed me to gain a move, basically making him waste tempos um, with the rook. He plays knight c5, point being that if I were to take, this would automatically be a losing blunder, because after d takes c5, knight takes a4, he has the move b6, and now my queen is trapped. I cannot go a6 simply because the bishop will take it, and I don't have queen b8 because again, spaghettios, he takes my queen. As Hikaru would say, spaghettios. So what I ended up doing was going to move rook c8. This way my queen now has the a8 square to evacuate when needed. We get queen e3, and now rook e8. Apparently here, after queen e3, I had to move knight takes c5, d takes c5, and knight takes a4. But for some reason, I did not go through it because I thought b6 was simply strong when it really wasn't, and ended up going with the move rook e8, defending against any knight takes e6 threats, and potentially maybe aiming at a move like e5. We get c4, and at this point, I knew that I was automatically going to win this game, as I was able to alleviate some of the pressure, swap off his good bishop, and get the really nice outpost with the d5 square, controlling everything. Now this pawn's isolated. I'm going to go b6, kick away a strong knight, and simply reroute my queen to then target his weak a4 pawn. We get queen e4, now b6, knight d3. I swap up a pair of rooks and go queen e7, again going with the idea of simply rerouting my queen to a3, and this knight is again super powerful because not even the rook can enter, so I was extremely happy at this point. We get knight to e5, I go queen a3, knight c6, and here I could have had a very strong move. I did not see it in the game, which was this very strong f5 move. I was calculating it, but I didn't really consider it much, which is kind of ridiculous. But basically, white loses this piece as he has no way to defend it. And I don't know why I didn't see this in the game. Point being, the queen has no squares to defend the bishop. Let's say queen c2. I simply take the bishop and I'm up a bishop. I did not see that in the game. And ended up just chopping the pawn. We get rook e1. Now queen takes b5. Knight goes back. And I simply decide to liquidate everything into a winning endgame by trading everything off. We get bum, 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 bum. And I start pushing my past pawns to victory. And a couple moves later, my opponent decides to resign the game. So we get a first round win. I wouldn't say very complicated. I was a little bit uneasy at times, but hey, you do gotta complicate in order to make your opponent kind of overthink it and kind of fall into a critical position where he will most likely make a mistake. If you're trying to beat a lower rated, you know that at some point they're gonna crack, and I simply was waiting for my opportunity. But enough about that. Let's go back and go into the second round. Now, the second round, oh my goodness, I'm sorry for spoiling again. That is very terrible. I have the white pieces, and I'm facing this very nice, talented player, Oskar Karpenko. And Karpenko, Mr. Karpenko is very, very sour. Oh, that's good. Coke Zero. That's really good Coke Zero, guys. This is the only thing that was keeping me awake the whole tournament. Coke Zero. Well, tournament, but just throughout the 9 hours. Basically, Karpenko, very strong junior player. I'm not even sure he's 18 yet. I think he's like 15 or 14, maybe 16. I don't know. And basically, he is 2000. I thought he was like 2100, but this guy is up and coming. He will definitely become an NM. Give or take like an year, maybe two at most. So I expect him to be a very strong national master, especially as he gets older with time. So I was simply looking to get a rematch with him as the last time we played. It was a draw, where unfortunately I had the better end, but I simply hallucinated from exhaustion and simply ended up blundering the advantage, ending into a very reasonable draw. So again, I don't want to say even out the score, but I genuinely wanted my payback. So I decided to go e4. We get c5, Sicilian time. I go knight f3, d6, and bishop to e5 with the Rossolimo. We get knight c6, knight castles, g6, c4, bishop g7, knight c3, and again slowly developing our pieces up until I decide to chop away with the dynamic and go with the imbalance of bishop takes c6. We get b takes, rook to b1, and this is arguably the only point I would say for all these three moves after e6, b3, knight e7, bishop b2, that he could have probably been able to, I want to say like uh get back into the game. Well, not get back into the game, but he would have had a very reasonable advantage with the move e5, as he simply doesn't allow me any pawn break. I would have had to go one move like d3, black would have just castled, and after a move like queen e2, just f5, and black is reasonably comfortable here. Arguably, I would have favored black here, as it's very hard to figure out moves for white or any typical plans. There's no pawn breaks. Black has an easy ongoing flow with some kingside attacker going f4, g5, h5, basically to try and reroute his pieces, maybe king h8 and put the rooks on the g file, and the plan looks very optimal for black. But instead, Oskar, after knight e7 and bishop b2, instead of going e5 for the third time, he does his castle, and at this point I figure it's now or never, and go d4. We get c takes, knight takes, and now white's pieces are very coordinated, and everything goes in flow. I can do moves like queen d2, rook e1, and target this weak pawn d6. So Oskar decides to eliminate it with the move d5. We end up trading a couple pieces, and now queen d2. The whole point being that Oskar cannot take this bishop, as now queen takes d4 and white is completely winning. After f6 you have to give up a pawn, and white should be completely dominating. So that's why he cannot take away this really strong knight. And he ends up going rook c8. I go knight f3, chopping off another pair of pieces. But now after h3, rook d8, we get this very peaceful endgame where I go queen d2, we end up trading pieces, and now we get a mistake from Oskar with rook c7. Here I figured that white should not really be worse, but I should be able to at least try to grind this out, so I end up going with rook c1. We get rook c8 back, rook c2, bishop b7, and now rook to c7. Very critical move. Here Oskar really didn't really have much options. He decides to just gambit this pawn and go into a theoretically defendable endgame, which I thought was, if anything, it should always be at least, if not winning, just a draw for white. But I think he would have to really be precise to hold it. So I enter it anyways. I decide to go rook takes c8, bishop takes, knight takes. Amazing move according to the engine, because point being that black cannot go bishop takes h3 with the idea that after g takes he goes rook takes and it's like equal pawns. He cannot do that, as I have this nice Zwischenzug, intermediate move in German, knight c6. Point being I attack the knights and he has no squares. If he goes here, spaghetti goes, just knight e7, forks the rook. So simply once he moves the rook, I just chop off the bishop and it's game over. Exactly after knight takes, he again forced to enter this position, and we swap into this theoretical rook endgame where it should arguably be a draw, but it's not really easy. And we kind of end up maneuvering a bit here over and over. We gotta go rook a7. And the endgame, as you see, according to the engine, is +1. We make a bunch of inaccuracies. Rook b7, h4. I try to fix his pawn structures, f3, f6, king f2. And now Oskar goes for the move g5. And I really wish there was a way for me to remove like remove sorry. I wish there was like really a way for me to remove all of these weird annotations. I'm sorry for annoying you guys. But again, we chopped up into his endgame, we chopped off rooks, and we get into his endgame. Okay, there. So no annotations. Rook a7, rook d5, king f1, rook e5. He simply wants to cut off my king, not allowing my king to enter. I go a4, h5, rook b7, king f6, h4. Simply fixing his pawn structure so he can never go g5, king e6. And at some point, he has to trade off more pawns. And here after trading, I had this very unique idea, which I should have done in the game. I did not consider it. Maybe I did consider the check, but I did not evaluate this correctly. I went with the idea of rook h7. Whole point being that I fix his pawns on h4, and then I go back, which is what I did in the game. But this loses most of my advantage. We get king d6, and here again I could have been winning, but again I did not evaluate it, and instead went to move g4, focusing on my plan. That essentially, let's say black makes a random move and just decides to go here, and let's just say we like make random moves here, um and black decides to just trade here. After a takes, white is completely winning here because after king c5, due to black not being in time to grab this pawn, I had the really nice idea of f4, sacking my pawn f4. So now my g pawn goes up the board and simply aims to promote, and there's no way to catch both pawns. One of these pawns will be a decoy, and white will basically win the game. That was simply my idea. But luckily, after g4, he goes king c6. I go rook b8. King c7. Here, if I was winning with rook b5, he finds this really nice resource, king d6. And despite being down a pawn, he's miraculously in time because I'm never really able to sack any pawns. If I were to trade, go king g2, king f4, and king here, I'm simply just lost. He could play h3, and I'm simply losing the game. I do not have like any move like b4 because simply he will get in time, and arguably he will get the winning endgame. Oh wait, sorry. Yeah, no, he is in time here because simply again the king would just go at d6, and despite us being both in time, you could say to like promote, I simply am too short, and his king will get his pawn, and my king cannot get his pawn. So very unfortunate ending. Exactly why it's very crucial to evaluate when to trade. So I end up going king g2, rook e7, rook e2 check, king h3, rook e5 back, and now king g2, and now rook c5. We get king f2, king c6, rook b8, check, king f1, and here is where Oskar simply throws away the game by playing the move rook to b2. This simply loses the game automatically. I spotted it quickly, rook b5. Whole point being is that now his two pawns are overloaded, and one of them are going to fall inevitably. He has to go h3, but luckily I have this very clutch move, king g1, simply in time to prevent the pawn from queening. He gives a check, king h1, rook f2. I took the pawn g5, rook takes, and went back, and simply pushed my passed pawn. And at this point I knew I'm winning, simply because he has no moves. His best try was probably rook h3, but I figure again I could probably just give away this pawn here, rook takes g6, and then take on a5. And there's no way that this is completely losing. Like, this has to be winning no matter what way you look at it. Let's just say black just gives like a couple random checks, spy check, spy check. I'm simply gonna bring my king all the way up, and no matter what black does, I simply will cut off the king and push my two pawns to victory. So there's not much he can do here. Again, in the game, he decided, you know what, let's give up the pawn, play a couple more moves. I advance my pawn, and brought my king all the way to the side of the board. And here's where I really don't know what happened, as we both basically stopped notating and we're under time pressure. And I gradually basically just decided to give up that pawn and take over the a5 pawn, relying on my two passed pawns. I simply brought my king up the board, escorting my pawns to victory, and he resigned at some point. So I really don't know, that last couple moves, that was kind of fabricated, but that essentially is how I was able to win that game. And that leads us to the third round. The third round was not really exciting, and it's pretty simply why. The third round ended in a quick draw. So in the third round, I was playing against Roberto Ferreiro, also as I call on the channel Pinata or Pena. He is a FIDE master, same rating as me, both in USCF. He had the white pieces. He played d4. I went knight f6. Knight f3, d5, c4, e6, e3, bishop e4 check, bishop d2, bishop e7, knight c3, knight e4, bishop e2, castles, castles, and went for the move f5, trying to go for his dynamic Dutch setup, and simply aiming for this weird stonewall idea with c6, implanting my knight and trying to get some dynamic imbalance. He goes knight 5, and after c6, I offer him a draw, and he shook my hand with amazing joy, and we made a quick draw. That was about it. Nothing exciting about it. We both simply just assumed that, you know what, it's round 3. We're both equal in rating. We're both in the running. Let's conserve our energy for the last round. And I offered it. He just immediately took it because, you know what, why not? I have the higher rating, and I really have no risk with drawing this game, which leads us to the 4th game. And this is a very impactful game. Um, this game basically decided who would win the Christmas Rock Open tournament, as I was playing my very favorite rival, Gene Marcos, who was rated 2300, the only 2300 in the event. He is an FM from Cuba who moved here years ago. I want to say like 3-4 years ago. I'm not really sure when. And he's just been a very strong rival in the Florida community. Everyone knows him by now. He's played a lot of strong players from Grandmaster Becerra, etc. And has always been on the top few boards, always competitively studying chess and having a very hard work ethic with a lot of discipline. So many people look up to him. I admire his work ethic and honestly think that he's just amazing. A very brute definition of a player who embodies nothing but hard work, studying, and just pure will. So it's just really awesome whenever I get to play. And this is the first time we both play on the first board at the Rock. So hopefully this won't be the last. We get d4, d5, knight f3, knight f6, c4, c6, e3, e6. And before I interrupt with anything, I'm just going to clear again all those notations as I do not want anything to get in the way. And I'm sorry again for spoiling. We get d4, d5, knight f3, knight f6, c4, c6, e3, e6. We both just kind of copycat knight b2, knight b7, bishop d3, bishop d6, castle, castle. And I break in the center with the move e4. Takes. And Gene starts going wrong here as he just takes automatically, developing by the move knight f6, which is already nearly +1 advantage for white. I've seen this position before. This position is kind of like a textbook type of study where black, if he isn't like able to coordinate his pieces with tempos, he's automatically inferior and pretty much undeniably almost lost. Simply because white's pieces are well coordinated and they're always pointing near black's king side, and there's really tempting ideas like going knight g5, rook e1, swing the rook over, and it's a lot of pressure that black has to deal with. So black essentially needs to be in time with everything. After knight f6, bishop c2, he plays the disastrous move c5. I go bishop e3, and out of nowhere, he could have tried to hold on to the game with a move like b6. This is what I was looking at. After d takes, pawn takes, this is what I was evaluating during the game, and going for a move like queen e2 and bishop e7 and rook a d1. I thought that this would have been very level and very interesting position. He did not go for this, however, and instead decides to take, which is just surprising, and I ended up taking back with the queen. We get queen e7, now play the move c5, bishop c7, and queen h4. Again, looking at the king side, my light square bishop is simply a dragon, and this bishop is soaring. If you ever went h6, I was thinking of actually just sacking my bishop, honestly, and going for this really crazy attack, which automatically would have been amazing. As you can see, the engine absolutely approves it. So Gene, after a long think, decides to go for the move bishop d8, and after playing the move rook to a d1, I offer him a draw. And why exactly? So after my third round, as we finished very, very quickly, me and the FM were talking, etc., about the last round, possible pair-ups, etc. And we inevitably included, he told me, hey, all you need to do is just draw your last game, as apparently with 3 points you're able to get prize money. And I thought that, oh, okay, so I don't really have to win. I'm simply trying to hold. So with that mentality, I'm thinking, you know what? If I'm able to draw here and get my 3 points, I will at least minimally get some type of money, so I'll be happy with it. It will make my trip worthwhile. But Gene declined my draw, or maybe he didn't hear me, but I did offer him a draw. He declined it and went with the move e5, trying to start with some counterplay. We both had 2.5, so if we have a draw, we both have a secured prize money, but he didn't want it. He wanted to play on. So we get rook e1, rook e8, and now the move bishop to g5. After queen takes c5, I missed a killer blow. Here at the end, with the engine in higher def, I did not calculate this move, or not really calculate, I didn't evaluate it correctly, but I had this soul-crushing move of rook takes d8, rook takes d8, bishop takes f6, g takes f6, and queen takes f6, which apparently is equal after the move bishop to e6, but an FM was like calculating this and thought that any other move, like queen d6, I had bishop takes h7 check, king takes knight g5 check, and then just I had this really nice schematic, which simply is just soul crushing. But here, apparently, just queen takes h7. This is what I was looking at, king f8, and I didn't see a clear way to continue, but apparently the engine says knight takes e5, pawn takes, and simply queen h8, king e7, and rook takes e5, bishop e6, and now I have queen h4 check, checking the king, winning the queen, and this should be automatically game over. There were so many complex sequences that I was trying to evaluate, but couldn't really quite get into my head, which is why ultimately I was very sad when I didn't play the move rook takes d8 and opted for the move bishop takes f6, simply trying to get out of dodge and avoid all the complications that come with it. He took back, I took on h7, king f8, bishop b3, and after bishop g4, I still was winning had I done the move h3. Point being that if black is thinking, okay, I can just take you, and I'm not actually going to take back, this will actually make the game still reasonably in my favor. But I would have done this drawn move, rook to d7, eyeing the pawn f7. If rook e7 is defending, then queen h8 is mate. And there really isn't any other move except a spite check like queen takes f2, which inevitably loses the game. So black had to be really careful here, and there weren't really much moves after h3. After h3, basically the best move was just bishop e6, and after takes and I think f takes, again, white should be comfortably better here. I could even solo play with a move like knight e2, try and go knight e4, and again, there's like +3 advantage. White is simply crushing and in the driver's seat. But again, I didn't go for this. I went h7 check, king f8, bishop b3, bishop g4, and now queen e4. I simply was just trying to bail out and hold on my own. We get trade, rook e7, defending against rook d7. I go queen e4, simply not allowing this pawn to go through. Queen b6, rook d5, rook d8, g3, making some room for our kings. h4, king g7, rook e7. I'm simply consolidating my pieces. Rook c7, king g2. And at this point in the game, automatically, the game should be heading towards a draw. Not much could be said here. You know, it's about level. Gene basically kind of survived the attack. I'm still reasonably better, but it's very slightly. And not really better. It's more like, again, it's very equal. But he plays queen d4. And at this point in the game, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm not only am I holding a draw, I'm probably very comfortable here. I end up swapping the queens and going king f3. Whole plan simply to put my king on d3 and then from there just stay solid. But he goes off the rails. b5, king e4. Actually, not king e4. Rook c2. Again, Gene's first attempt or second attempt to hold a draw. If he wanted to, just rook takes c2, and we could have swapped all these pieces off. This is a draw. Regardless of how you look at, despite white being up a pawn, opposite colored bishops, the bishop would just go to d4. There's no way I ever push this for a win. Just dead zeros. Gene could have done this. He went rook b7, king e4, a5, king d, not queen d3, sorry, rook c5, attacking the pawn. We get rook e7 check, king d3, a4, and now bishop d5. This pawn is going to fall. And again, it could have been how he done move like b4. I would probably done like a move like rook a5, and again, rook e5 holds with best defense, and it's very, very crucial. But Gene did not go for it. He went for the move rook to e8, and everything just starts going off the rail. I go rook takes b5. We get rook e8 check, king e2. And spaghettios, I go rook b7. And again, this is Gene's third attempt, third opportunity to hold the game. had he played rook takes b2. But he did not play rook takes b2. Whole point being, after I take back, he has d3 check, king takes d3, bishop takes b2. And again, despite being down a pawn, black can simply play a3, implant this pawn there, and with the opposite dark square bishop against the light square bishop, despite the pawn advantage, there's no way to infiltrate and push this for a win. Again, literally almost dead zeros. But Jean, again, did not see this under time pressure and goes for the move. Bishop to e5, I do rook takes f7, no, I go f4, again, allowing him rook takes b2. But again, Jean, simply under time pressure, does not see it. He goes bishop d6, I take on f7 check. King e6, and now rook b7 back. We get rook b1. Rook b6 attacking the bishop. Whole point being that I want to transfer my bishop to e4 and win the pawn g6, potentially creating a main net. He goes bishop c5, rook c6, bishop b4, and now king f2 with time. Here I was very nervous. Our time is both ticking. We're down to our final, I think I want to say like 2 minutes. He was already below a minute. We get rook to e8, bishop to e4, rook check, king f3, rook takes b2, rook takes g6, king h7, rook d6 check, king g7, rook takes pawn, bishop c5. He cannot take the pawn a2 because then I take his bishop. So Gene is going crazy. He's spiraling out of control. Bishop to c5. We get rook c4, again attacking the bishop. Bishop to e7, rook c7, king f8. And here I don't know what's going on. All I know is I'm defending the pawns. He defended his pawns. I pushed my pawns. Rook check, king up, bishop there. He tried to implant some weird trick with rook takes b3, bishop f6, and essentially pointing to his pawn to push for a draw. But I didn't let him. Check, here, back. I defended my bishop. Rook check, king f5. And then here, I don't know what happened afterwards. I really don't know how we got to this point at all. But I remember it was something similar. And Gene ends up resigning the game. I can't believe it, folks. There is a winner. There is a winner, as you guys can see on this picture. There is a winner. That is me. Even though I'm wearing a Santa hat, that was me, folks. Gene just resigned the game, and the winner of the Christmas Rock Open is myself. Which, okay, I'm sorry for the stupid commentary, but legit, after, it's just insane actually, because I mean, this game I was never really worse. I was always, in a comfortable position, and the game was about level. Gene had so much opportunities here to draw the game. But for some reason, he didn't want us to draw. Here at the rook a1, I offered him a draw. He did not take it. And then I ended up missing my chances. I'm still fine. We trade pieces. He again declines the draw. I didn't offer a draw, but he basically declined the forced draw after the rook trade by declining. And yet again, he missed his final opportunity with rook takes b2 check and e6. Which is very, very unfortunate. Gene could have potentially saved the game here. Although, I'm not really sure if the position was exactly like this. But I remember he did move his bishop. I did attack his bishop. And I remember taking on f7. Maybe the position was like that. Maybe if it was like this, Gene would have probably saw rook takes b2. But I was simply trying to reach the final position. And honestly, I don't really remember much other than this. I think the position was somewhat like this. But we were both on a time scramble that at this point, I really don't know what happened. Except that one g6. And I gave up. Instead of going for the a4 pawn, I went for the d4 pawn, which I thought was more venomous because it came with tempo. And Gene simply could not move his bishop due to losing the a4 pawn. But again, here honestly, I don't remember much. So maybe here he played the move a3. I honestly don't know what happened. But there we go, guys. Legit. Everything after this point, I really don't know what happened. Like everything after here, I genuinely don't know what happened. So up around, I want to say here. Here, I don't know what happened. I'm not sure if this is the identical position, but I know that I didn't have any real discover check which one is rook or anything like that. Or I know that I either won this pawn or the other pawn, and I simply went for the one that was most dangerous, and I cleaned up. But again, all this is just kind of fabricated. I really don't know what happened. Other than that, I simply started pushing my pawns. He tried every last trick that he had, but I simply consolidated, and he ended up resigning the game. So this move is currently move 60. It could have been longer. I honestly don't remember because of time scramble and it wasn't recorded. But it was on this move 60 plus something that Gene, the amazing legendary FM that we all know and love, throughout his whole hard work ethic and discipline, ended up resigning the game. So what does this mean? In a total score, sorry, with an overall score of 3.5 out of 4, I ended up being the sole winner, as there was no one else with 3.5. Roberto would end up drawing his game with a very strong national master, Ronald Hernandez, to finish with 3 points, securing second place. There was also a very strong player known by the name of Pedro Amiral, who was 2170. He ended up tying for second, losing to only Gene and actually winning 3 games, which was very, very strong. Then we have the up-and-coming player Diego Jimenez, who is a very strong 2100, up-and-coming, soon-to-be national master. So very, very special. And lastly, before I end this video, um, after this game, basically Gene just went to 5th place, and Ronald already only had, I think, like 2 points. So his draw with Bane basically meant that he finished with 2.5, which took him away from the standings. But essentially, again, we have this final picture here that you guys can see. I will be posting the interviews. So if you guys can see here, if you look at my hands, okay, so where my finger is pointing, that is Diego Jimenez, and then that is Fia Master Pena. That is a winner, the winner of the under 2000 section, Duvier, very strong and upcoming player. And then I can't point anymore, but basically then there's the arbiter Diego Mia, who's a very infamous arbiter in the Florida chess community. Then there's myself carrying the notation sheet that was the game that me and Gene played, which is kind of iconic. Then there's Pedro Amiral, who basically secured second place, tying with Pena. And then there's the second arbiter, Raul. So hopefully you guys can enjoy that really nice picture. Very, very special and significant, as this is technically the last tournament they held. Well, no, this is the last tournament they held at The Rock before the new year. So, with that being said, this video is very, very long, a very astonishing 37 minutes. And there's not much else I can say other than I might be playing a FIDE event this weekend that includes 2 Grandmasters. If I don't, then it's all well. But if I do, I will be posting more videos on that tournament specifically. But in regards to this tournament, it is over. I was able to win this very nice trophy, which you guys can see right here. Let me just go to the camera really quickly and see if the camera will zoom. Let me just wipe that over there. Come on, buddy. Let's see if the camera can pick it up. It's like it's not glaring enough, but as you guys can see it, as you guys can see it right there, it should be working well. But there you go, Christmas Rock Open champion. It's just not working well. Unfortunately, it is not working well. I really want the glare to show up, but it's not. But the best we're gonna get is this Christmas Rock Open champion, 12/13/2025. So there we go, the last tournament of the year. And currently I am drinking Coke Zero of it, so cheers. It tastes good. And it is currently morning already. The sun's already back up, so yeah, not much else needs to be said. It's up. Thank you to The Rock, thank you to everyone. It's insane. I really have no words. Again, I stayed up the whole night for 9 hours in total playing Blitz chess. Got to 2800 Blitz, which I did talk about in my interview. There is an interview from the Rock Chess Club, and I will put that in the description down below so you guys can go support them. Not only I got a 2800, I ended up winning this trophy. I ended up beating Gene, so I felt very happy about that, and my rating gained up. And so you guys can see the rating gains. Let me go here to the report. As you guys can see right there, you guys can't quite see it very well, but I did end up going from 2246 to 2261. Not a huge increase, but hey, we're like a point away from our peak. Well, my peak, which is 2262, I believe, or 2264, doesn't matter. So maybe we can try to break 2270 in this upcoming weekend if I do end up going to that tournament. But here you guys can also see the ratings of my opponents. So all my opponents gained rating except Gene, of course, and Oskar Karpenko, but I'm sure they're gonna bounce back. Well, I know Oscar's gonna bounce back. Gene is probably gonna bounce back. He only ended up losing 3 points, so it's not that drastic. Pena played really strongly. He gained a few points, beating these really nice, strong opponents. I actually have a video of this recording with Oskar. Then we got Pedro, and Pedro ended up losing only against Gene and winning all his remaining games. He beat very strong opponents. And lastly, again, Diego Jimenez, he did gain rating as well, losing to only Gene and beating the rest of the players. But again, with that being said, guys, this is it. This is it right here. Let me just go back to the board really quickly and just cropping this picture really quick. This is it, guys. Merry Christmas. I know it's 40 minutes long. I hope you guys have enjoyed this recap. This recap has been crazy, and I know it's kind of crazy here, but yeah. The Rock has a website. The Rock has a YouTube channel. The Rock has an Instagram. Go follow them, guys. Thank you guys for everything. Merry Christmas. I hope many of you have a wonderful, fantastic New Year and amazing celebrations with all your family. Hope you enjoyed my recap. Let me just adjust this a little tiny bit. And yeah, not much else to say. Other than that, I ended up watching a movie about Killer Santa, which probably got me to wear this hat. And I also, again, if I'm in this upcoming tournament this weekend, I will probably wear this hat during the Blitz tournament if they have one. So that'll be really cool. But yeah, I am very, very tired. Because I haven't really slept at all. I've just been making videos. So yeah, love you guys again. Don't want to make this go too long. It's 41 minutes, about to be 42. So yeah, peace, guys. Love y'all. Merry Christmas, and make sure to comment down below. Tell me what you guys think of the review. Like and subscribe for more videos. And again, love you guys all. Have a wonderful, wonderful, jolly, jolly, jolly Merry Christmas. So Merry Christmas to each and one of you. Humbug, Merry Christmas. And yeah, have a happy New Year. Merry Christmas, guys. Ciao.